She was just a maid, scrubbing floors in a mansion that wasn't hers. But one shocking twist would flip her entire life upside down. What happens when the poorest woman in the room suddenly becomes the heiress to $1 billion empire? Welcome to the Maid Who Inherited $1 billion empire, a tale of betrayal, love, and power struggles that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear will change the way you see loyalty, greed, and destiny forever. Backhand index pointing right, and hey, before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tell me in the comments, what would you do if $1 billion fortune suddenly became yours? They say life has a way of placing the most unlikely souls in the most unimaginable destinies. But for Isabella Martinez, destiny was nothing more than the next pile of laundry, the next scrubbed floor, the next plate she had to serve to people who barely noticed her presence. She was 24, fragile yet strong, with calloused hands that told the story of sacrifice, and eyes that carried both pain and hope. For Isabella, being a maid wasn't just a job. It was survival. It was the only way to put food on the table for her sick mother and little brother back home. But what Isabella didn't know, was that the very house she cleaned would one day change her life forever. Before we dive deeper, let me remind you, don't forget to like this video, drop a comment with your thoughts, share it with someone who loves drama-filled stories, and subscribe so you never miss what happens next. Because trust me, you won't want to miss this ride. Every morning at 5 a.m. sharp, Isabella took the long bus ride into the wealthiest district of the city. There stood the Blackwood estate, a fortress of marble pillars, sprawling gardens, and chandeliers worth more than she could make in 10 lifetimes. To Isabella, it was another world. The cars, the dresses, the jewels, things she could never even dream of owning. Yet here she was, sweeping floors, wiping dust off antique vases, and serving people who barely glanced her way. And then, there was Beatrice Holloway, the head housekeeper. Strict, sharp-eyed, and cold as winter itself. She ruled the mansion staff like a general. To her, Isabella was just another replaceable servant. "Faster, Isabella," Beatrice snapped one morning as Isabella struggled with a tray of crystal glasses. "Do you think the Blackwoods are paying you to move like a snail?" Isabella bit her lip and said nothing. Talking back would only cost her the little job she had. But inside, she whispered to herself, one day I'll prove I'm worth more than this." Little did she know, fate was already listening. That evening, as she polished the golden staircase railing, Isabella heard footsteps echoing from above. She quickly stepped aside, head lowered. But this wasn't Beatrice. No, it was him. Alexander Blackwood. The heir to the Blackwood fortune, 28, tall, sharp jawline, dressed in a suit that screamed power. He was known in magazines as the most eligible bachelor in the city. Women adored him. Businessmen feared him. To Isabella, he was untouchable. But that night, fate decided to test boundaries. She slipped, her rag falling from her hand. Before she could pick it up, Alexander bent down first. Their hands brushed. Her heart skipped. His eyes locked with hers, deep, piercing, curious. For a moment, Isabella forgot she was a maid. For a moment, she felt seen. "Careful," Alexander said, his voice calm but commanding. "This railing is dangerous when wet." Isabella stammered, Thank you, sir." But Alexander didn't walk away immediately. He studied her face, as if trying to place her. Then, without another word, he left. It was brief. But it was enough to plant a seed. A seed that would soon grow into something no one could stop. Back in the servants' quarters, Isabella couldn't stop thinking about that moment. And neither could Rosa Delgado, her bold and witty best friend who also worked at the mansion. Rosa teased her endlessly. "Oh, don't tell me the prince of the mansion touched your hand and now you think you're Cinderella," she laughed. Isabella shook her head, flustered. "It was nothing, Rosa. He doesn't even know my name." But Rosa winked. Oh, honey, men like him don't look at girls like us, unless fate has something wild in store. Isabella rolled her eyes, but deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling. Not everyone found Isabella amusing. That very same night, Victoria Sterling, Alexander's longtime girlfriend, glamorous, cold, and proud, noticed Alexander glancing briefly at the maid during dinner. Her eyes narrowed. "Why," she whispered under her breath, "is he looking at her?" From that moment, Isabella unknowingly stepped into a battlefield she was never prepared for. And so, what began as another day of cleaning floors and serving food turned into something far more dangerous. Isabella was no longer invisible. Someone had noticed her. Someone powerful. Someone forbidden. But with every glance, every whisper, every secret exchanged in that mansion, Isabella was walking closer and closer to a destiny that would shatter her world forever. Because the maid who scrubbed floors was about to inherit an empire. If you're hooked already, drop a comment with what you think will happen next. Do you think Isabella will rise, or will she be crushed by the powerful forces around her? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and stay tuned, because we'll take this story to a whole new level. Sometimes, it only takes a single glance to change everything. For Isabella Martinez, that fleeting brush of hands with Alexander Blackwood should have meant nothing. He was a billionaire heir, a man untouchable, way above her world. And she? She was just a maid. Invisible. Replaceable. Forgettable. But fate doesn't care about rules. Fate loves chaos. And chaos was about to begin. Before I unravel what happens next, don't forget to like this video, drop a comment with your predictions, subscribe, and share it, because trust me, what's coming next is something you won't want to miss. The next morning, Isabella tried to bury the memory. She convinced herself it was nothing. He probably doesn't even remember me, she thought. But fate had other plans. As Isabella balanced a silver tray of breakfast dishes in the dining hall, the door swung open. And there he was again, Alexander Blackwood, sleeves rolled up, phone in hand, looking sharp yet restless. He barely noticed the other staff, but when his eyes landed on Isabella, he stopped mid-sentence. For a heartbeat, silence. His gaze lingered, curious, searching. Isabella's knees nearly buckled. "Your name?" he asked suddenly. Her lips parted. "Isabella, sir." Alexander nodded, as if storing the name away like a secret treasure. "Isabella," he repeated softly. Then, with a glance at her trembling hands gripping the tray, he added, "Careful with that. Those glasses are worth more than most people's rent." He smirked. A faint smile. And then he walked off. Isabella stood frozen, heart pounding. It was brief. But it was undeniable. Something had shifted. That evening, Isabella whispered everything to Rosa Delgado, her loud, funny, and fearless best friend. Rosa nearly dropped her mop in shock. "Wait, wait, wait," he asked, "your name?" "Isabella, this is dangerous. Men like him don't just ask maids their names unless he's interested." Isabella's face flushed. "No. No, Rosa, don't say that. He has a girlfriend. He's way out of my league. It's nothing." But Rosa shook her head. "Honey, I've seen that man's type. And trust me, when the Blackwood heir takes interest, nothing stays, nothing, for long." Mid-roll hook, re-engage viewers. Quick reminder, if you're still here watching this twist unfold, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, should Isabella give Alexander a chance, or should she run before it's too late? Of course, in every fairy tale, there's someone watching. And in this one, it was Victoria Sterling, Alexander's glamorous and ruthless girlfriend. During dinner that night, Victoria noticed it again, the way Alexander's eyes briefly flicked toward the maid as she poured wine. Just for a second. But Victoria noticed everything. Her manicured nails tapped against her glass. Her smile never faltered, but inside, suspicion was already blooming like poison. Later, in the privacy of her car, she dialed a number. Gregory Steele, Alexander's wealthy rival and her secret ally. "There's a girl," she whispered. "A maid. I think Alexander is distracted." Gregory chuckled coldly on the other end. "Perfect. If Blackwood has a weakness, we'll use it. Find out everything about her." Victoria's eyes gleamed. "Don't worry. I intend to." 2 nights later, Isabella was cleaning the vast library, shelves of books stretching to the ceiling, velvet chairs, and a fireplace crackling with warmth. She didn't expect anyone to come in. But the door opened softly, and there he was, Alexander. Alone. Her heart raced. She lowered her eyes. I'll leave, sir." But his voice stopped her. "Stay." He walked closer, loosening his tie, looking, almost human. Not the untouchable billionaire, but a man weighed down by something invisible. "Do you like books?" he asked suddenly. Isabella blinked, confused. "Books? Yes. But I can't really afford many." Alexander reached up, plucked a novel from the shelf, and handed it to her. "Take it. Consider it a gift." Isabella hesitated. I can't accept this." But his eyes locked onto hers. "You can. And you will." For a moment, it wasn't master and servant. It was man and woman. Something real. Something dangerous. And just like that, the walls around Isabella's heart began to crack. But little did she know, someone was watching. Victoria had bribed another maid to spy, and when Isabella left the library holding that book, Victoria's suspicions were confirmed. Her lips curled into a venomous smile. "So, the maid thinks she's special." That night, Victoria sent a message to Gregory, "The girl has to go. But let's make it messy. Let's make it public." And just like that, the first pieces of the trap were laid. As Isabella clutched the book to her chest that night, she whispered to herself, "It's just a gift. Nothing more." But in the shadows of the mansion, enemies were already moving their pieces. Secrets were being uncovered. And Isabella? She had no idea that her life was about to spiral out of control. Because when a maid catches the eye of a billionaire, she also catches the eye of everyone who wants to destroy him. And trust me, the storm is only just beginning. If you're still watching, don't forget to like, comment your theories, share this video, and hit subscribe, because we are about to unleash the scandal that changes everything. You know what they say, the higher you climb, the more enemies wait for you at the top. For Isabella Torres, the maid turned heiress, this is where her fairy tale inheritance starts to feel more like a ticking time bomb. Because if you thought Victoria Kane and Marcus Steele were ruthless before, you haven't seen anything yet. Stay with me, because in this part of the story, the scandal breaks wide open. And by the end, Isabella's empire, and maybe even her heart, could come crashing down. And hey, before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button if you're enjoying the twists so far, drop a comment on who you're rooting for, and subscribe so you don't miss. Now, let's unravel the chaos. It started with a blog post. Evelyn Shaw, the socialite gossip blogger who lives and breathes scandal, published an article titled, "The Maid's Dirty Secret, Is Isabella Torres Hiding a Past She Doesn't Want You to Know?" Within minutes, it was everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, headlines flashing on business TV networks. Cameras swarmed the Kane mansion gates. Journalists shouted her name. And Isabella, who had just begun learning how to walk in high heels at corporate events, suddenly found herself drowning in whispers. She's not qualified. She's manipulating Adrian Cole to rise. The maid is nothing more than a gold digger. Isabella's hands shook as she held the newspaper. "This isn't true, none of it is true," she whispered. But the problem wasn't truth. The problem was perception. And perception was everything in the empire. Behind closed doors, Victoria Kane smirked over her glass of red wine. Perfect, she purred to Marcus Steele. The seed of doubt has been planted. Now the public will turn on her. And the board will have no choice but to strip her inheritance. Marcus leaned back, cold and calculating. All we have to do is keep feeding the fire. If she looks weak, the stock crashes. And when the company bleeds, I'll be there to buy it all. Victoria's eyes gleamed. And I'll finally get what's mine. Isabella Torres won't last the week. At Kane Enterprises Glass headquarters, the boardroom crackled with tension. Charles Donovan, the chairman, slammed a copy of Evelyn's article on the table. This scandal is damaging us already, he said sharply. Shareholders are panicking. Isabella, do you even understand what this kind of exposure does to our credibility? Isabella sat frozen. Every word felt like knives. Adrian Cole rose to his feet. His voice, calm but powerful, cut through the storm. This is a smear campaign, he declared. There is no evidence of wrongdoing. Isabella Torres has done nothing but honor Mr. Kane's will. If we fold now, we let gossip dictate this company's future. And that would be the real betrayal. The board murmured. Some nodded. Some frowned. Charles Donovan studied Adrian carefully, but said nothing. For Isabella, that silence was deafening. That night, Isabella broke down in her room. Her younger sister Lily stormed in, eyes blazing. Who cares what those rich vultures say? You've survived worse, Bella. Remember when we had to share one meal a day? Remember cleaning floors until your hands bled? And now you're going to let them scare you? Isabella shook her head. It's not just me, Lily. This empire, it feels like it's crumbling because of me. Lily grabbed her hands. No. It's crumbling because they're afraid of you. Because deep down, they know you belong here. And I swear, I'll fight anyone who says otherwise. For the first time all week, Isabella smiled. You always know what to say. Lily grinned. That's what sisters are for. Now get up, we're not done yet. But here's the thing about Evelyn Shaw, the gossip queen. She wasn't loyal to anyone. Not Isabella. Not Victoria. Not Marcus. The next day, Evelyn's blog dropped another bombshell. The photos were blurry but damning. Victoria and Marcus in a shadowy restaurant corner. Champagne glasses raised. The internet exploded. Was this partnership about business? Or betrayal? For once, the scandal didn't just target Isabella. It threatened Victoria herself. By the time the next board meeting came, the company was a war zone. Stock prices dipped. Shareholders demanded answers. Cameras waited outside the glass tower. Isabella walked into the boardroom, her nerves trembling, but her chin high. Victoria Kane sat across from her, diamonds glittering, her smile sharp as a blade. Charles Donovan's voice was grave. The empire is at risk. We need stability. We need leadership. The question is, does Isabella Torres truly have what it takes, or is she the scandal waiting to destroy us all? The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Isabella. And in that silence, the maid-turned heiress knew her next words would either save everything, or end it all. But we'll save that for you. Because trust me, you won't want to miss how Isabella answers that question. If you've been hooked by the drama so far, smash that like button, drop a comment on whether you think Isabella can outsmart Victoria, and of course, subscribe so you don't miss the next line. Because the war for the empire has just begun. Every empire has a battlefield. And for Isabella Torres, the maid who became an heiress, her battlefield wasn't the streets, or the media, it was the boardroom. Because today, the company, the fortune, and her entire future, would be decided with a single meeting. But here's the catch, not everyone in that room wanted her to win. Stay with me, because this is where Isabella steps into the lion's den. It's the corporate showdown of her life. And by the end of this, you'll know whether she truly deserves the empire, or whether Victoria and Marcus will finally destroy her. Oh, and hey, before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button if you're hooked by this drama so far, drop a comment with who you think will outsmart the other, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss. Now, let's open the doors to the boardroom. The boardroom of Kane Enterprises was a gleaming glass fortress. A 20-foot mahogany table. A panoramic view of the city skyline. And at its center, power, waiting to be claimed. Isabella walked in slowly. Her heart pounded, but her steps were steady. No maid's uniform this time. Instead, she wore a fitted navy dress, elegant, but unpretentious. A silent statement that she belonged. Adrian Cole walked beside her, a calm storm in a tailored suit. His presence was steadying. But his eyes told her, this battle, Isabella, is yours to fight. Across the table sat Victoria Kane, draped in diamonds, her smile sharp as glass. And next to her, Marcus Steele, the ruthless rival, already flipping through a leather portfolio as if he owned the room. At the head sat Charles Donovan, the board chairman. Silent. Watching. Judging. The air was thick with tension. Victoria was the first to move. She leaned forward, her voice dripping with venomous grace. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, addressing the board, we are gathered here not to honor sentiment, but to preserve the future of this empire. And the truth is simple, Isabella Torres is unfit. A maid can clean a floor, yes, but can she run a billion-dollar corporation? A cruel ripple of laughter passed among some board members. Victoria's eyes locked on Isabella. Richard Kane may have left her this empire in his will, but surely, he could not have meant for us to throw everything away on charity. Marcus seized the moment. The stock is falling, the media is feasting on scandal. If we continue this way, Kane Enterprises will be ripe for collapse. But he placed a hand dramatically on his chest, am prepared to step in. Merge my assets. Save what can be saved. Gasps filled the room. A merger? With Marcus Steele? It was bold. It was dangerous. And it would erase Isabella entirely. The room turned to Isabella. Her throat tightened. For a second, she almost faltered. But then she remembered Lily's words, they're afraid of you. She rose slowly, her voice soft but clear. I know what you all think of me. That I'm just a maid who stumbled into wealth. That I don't belong in this room. But let me tell you something. I know this company better than you think. Because I wasn't just cleaning floors, I was watching. Listening. Learning. She looked directly at Charles Donovan. I know the workers' names. Their struggles. Their loyalty. And I know this, an empire isn't built by mergers and manipulation. It's built by people who believe in it. A hush fell over the room. Victoria's smile faltered. Marcus narrowed his eyes. And then, Isabella played her hidden card. The boardroom doors burst open. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted. And at the center of the storm was Evelyn Shaw, the gossip blogger herself. She strode in, tossing a folder onto the table. You all might want to see this. Inside were photographs. Documents. Proof that Marcus and Victoria had been secretly plotting a hostile takeover. Gasps. Shouts. Chaos erupted. Charles Donovan's face hardened. Victoria. Marcus. Care to explain? Victoria tried to smile, but her mask cracked. Marcus snapped, this is irrelevant. We're here to discuss her incompetence, not rumors. Evelyn smirked. Funny thing about rumors, sometimes they come with receipts. For once, the scandal wasn't aimed at Isabella. It was aimed at them. Adrian rose, his voice like steel. Members of the board, you have a choice. Follow Marcus Steele into corruption and betrayal. Or honor Richard Kane's will, and trust the woman he believed in. A woman who has already shown more honesty and courage than those who've been in power for years. He placed a steady hand on Isabella's shoulder. Isabella Torres may have started as a maid. But today, she is the rightful leader of Kane Enterprises. And I will stand with her. The board fell silent. Charles Donovan cleared his throat. His gaze swept the room, then landed on Isabella. Very well. Let us put it to a vote. Those in favor of Isabella Torres as the new head of Kane Enterprises? Hands rose slowly. 1. 2. Then more. Victoria's face turned pale. Marcus clenched his jaw. Finally, Charles himself raised his hand. The majority has spoken. The room erupted. And in that moment, Isabella Torres, the maid who had once scrubbed these halls, was officially crowned as the leader of a billion-dollar empire. But make no mistake, victories like this don't end the war. Because as Isabella walked out of that boardroom, her heart pounding with triumph, she caught Victoria's eyes across the hallway. The widow's face was a mask of fury. And Marcus Steele? He leaned close to Victoria, whispering something with a smile that promised danger. The battle was won. But the war for the empire was far from over. If you were cheering for Isabella in that boardroom showdown, smash that like button, drop a comment on what you think Marcus whispered to Victoria, and of course, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss. Because trust me, the shadows are moving, and Isabella's greatest test is yet to come. You thought it was over, didn't you? Isabella Torres, the maid turned heiress, stood victorious in the boardroom. The vote was hers. The company was hers. But victories like these, only light darker fires in the hearts of the defeated. Because in the shadows of that glass tower, Victoria Kane and Marcus Steele were already plotting. And this time, their revenge wouldn't just threaten Isabella's empire, it would strike at her very soul. Stay with me, because this is where the war truly begins. The traps get darker, the stakes get higher, and Isabella discovers just how far her enemies will go to see her destroyed. And hey, before we dive deep, hit that like button if you've been rooting for Isabella, drop a comment with what you think Victoria's next move will be, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what is to come. Now, let's step into the storm. Victoria Kane slammed her glass of red wine onto the marble counter. That maid humiliated me. Took everything. Richard's fortune, my reputation, my company. And now she's sitting in my husband's chair. Marcus Steele leaned back in the leather chair of her penthouse, his smile cruel and calculating. Then we take away what she values most. You want her out? We don't just fight her in the boardroom. We destroy her outside it. Victoria's eyes gleamed. Her image. Marcus nodded. Her credibility. Her family. Her heart. For the first time, Victoria laughed. A sharp, wicked laugh that echoed across the empty penthouse. Meanwhile, Evelyn Shaw, the gossip blogger who had once exposed Marcus and Victoria, was back at her desk, scrolling through headlines. Her phone buzzed. A private message. Anonymous. Attached were photographs. Isabella, outside her old neighborhood. With her sister Lily. With Adrian Cole. Headline suggested for her blog, From Maid to Mistress, is the heiress sleeping her way into power? Her eyes widened. Evelyn knew a setup when she saw one. But the money attached to the offer? Astronomical. She hesitated. Loyalty was not her strongest trait. Drama, though. Drama was her oxygen. And the offer came with one chilling message: publish this. More will follow. The next morning, Isabella awoke to chaos. Her phone buzzed non-stop. Calls. Messages. Notifications. She opened one headline and froze. Heiress or homewrecker? Isabella Torres' scandalous rise to power. Her picture was plastered everywhere, arm in arm with Adrian, smiling outside a restaurant. Cropped, twisted, manipulated to look like an affair. The media had a new story: Isabella wasn't a hard-working heiress. She was a schemer. A seductress. A fraud. Her heart sank. And when Lily burst into the room with tears in her eyes, holding her phone, Isabella realized, this wasn't just about her. It was about everyone she loved. Adrian stormed into Isabella's office, his jaw tight. "It's Marcus. This has his fingerprints all over it." Isabella's voice cracked. "But what do we do? The board barely trusts me. If they believe these lies..." Adrian grabbed her hand. "Then we fight back. Not with panic. With proof. With strategy. That's what Marcus underestimates. He thinks you're weak. He doesn't know the fire you carry." For a moment, their eyes locked. And in the chaos of betrayal, something unspoken passed between them. Not just alliance. Not just strategy. Something deeper. But there was no time to dwell on it. Because outside, the world was already sharpening its knives. That night, at a glittering charity gala, Victoria made her move. Cameras flashed as she descended the stairs, diamonds glittering against her black gown. And then, she delivered the dagger. A public announcement. Sweet, innocent on the surface. Poison underneath. "I must say," Victoria told the crowd, her voice loud enough for every reporter's mic, "I do feel for Isabella. To be thrust into this world of wealth, without guidance, without class. It must be overwhelming. Poor girl. She was scrubbing my floors just months ago." Gasps filled the room. Murmurs spread. The humiliation was deliberate. The crowd devoured it. And Isabella, standing near the edge of the ballroom, felt the sting like acid. But if Isabella was shaken, Lily was fire. She stormed past the cameras, standing toe-to-toe with Victoria Kane herself. "You think diamonds make you powerful? You think money makes you better? Let me tell you something, you may have wealth, but my sister has something you'll never have. Heart. And that's worth more than all your blood money combined." The room went silent. Cameras flashed like fireworks. Evelyn Shaw, watching from the sidelines, nearly dropped her champagne glass. Lily's outburst was raw. Reckless. But powerful. For once, the world saw Isabella not as a maid, not as a mistress, but as a human being, with family, with loyalty, with something the Kanes could never fake. Later that night, as Isabella returned home, a package waited for her. No sender. Just a small velvet box. Inside, a single key. And a note. "This opens more than doors. Meet us tomorrow, or your empire burns." Her hands trembled. Because she knew exactly who it was from. Victoria. And Marcus. So now Isabella faces a choice: step into the trap her enemies have laid, or risk losing everything she's fought for. And let me tell you, the danger won't just be rumors or gossip. It will be life or death for Isabella's empire. If you're still with me and you think Isabella has the strength to outsmart Victoria and Marcus, smash that like button right now. Drop a comment with what you think is inside that mysterious trap, and hit subscribe because we are about to take this story to a whole new level of danger. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. The night was unusually quiet in the city, as if the skyscrapers themselves were holding their breath. From her office window, Isabella stared out at the glittering skyline. She had fought too hard to get here, too hard to back down now. But what she didn't know was that Victoria and Marcus had prepared something she could never see coming. "Ladies and gentlemen, if you've been following Isabella's journey, you know the stakes are at their peak. And trust me, what's about to unfold will shock you. Stay with me until the very end of this, because the trap that's been laid. It's not just business. It's personal. It began with a message. A sleek black envelope arrived at Isabella's desk, sealed with gold wax. Inside, an invitation. Exclusive gala, celebrating the future of Kane Enterprises. The words glimmered, elegant but sharp. Isabella frowned. A gala? No. She hadn't authorized any such event. Adrian walked in just as she finished reading. This has Victoria written all over it, he warned, adjusting his tie. Which means Marcus is behind it too, Isabella replied, her voice steady but laced with suspicion. Adrian's eyes searched hers. It's a setup. They want you there because they've prepared something. And here's where you, watching, might think, why walk into the lion's den? But remember, Isabella is not the maid anymore. She's the heiress. If she refused, the world would see weakness. So with her head held high, she decided, she would go. The night of the gala arrived. The venue glittered with chandeliers and velvet curtains. Men in tuxedos, women in gowns dripping with diamonds, the elite of the elite. But beneath the glamour was an unmistakable tension. And there she was, Isabella. No longer in her maid's uniform, but in a sleek midnight blue gown that whispered both elegance and defiance. Her presence alone silenced the room. Victoria, dressed in a crimson gown, smiled like a predator. "Darling Isabella," she purred, her voice dripping with poison. "Victoria," Isabella returned, her tone polite but sharp. Across the room, Marcus raised a glass. His smirk said it all, the trap has been sprung. Halfway through the evening, the lights dimmed. A massive screen descended. Evelyn Shaw, the notorious gossip blogger, appeared in a pre-recorded video. With her signature smirk, she began to narrate. "Tonight, dear audience, we unveil the truth about the so-called heiress, Isabella Torres." Photos began flashing. Images of Isabella as a maid scrubbing floors. Audio recordings twisted to sound like she mocked the Kane legacy. Even a forged bank statement, suggesting she'd stolen money. Gasps rippled through the room. Murmurs turned to whispers, whispers turned to stares. Victoria leaned close, whispering into Isabella's ear, "Enjoy your empire while it lasts, maid." But Isabella didn't flinch. She stood taller, her eyes unshaken. Adrian stepped forward, his voice firm. "This is defamation. Fabricated evidence. And we will prove it." But the real trap wasn't just the scandal. As Adrian tried to pull Isabella aside, security guards suddenly blocked the exits. Locked doors. Guarded halls. Marcus lifted his glass again, signaling something. This wasn't just about humiliation. It was about isolation. Victoria's voice rang out. "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, you are witnesses. Witnesses to the fall of a fraud." And then, a chilling reveal. A forged, new will was projected on the screen. One that cut Isabella out completely and named Victoria as rightful heir. The crowd erupted in confusion. Investors pulled out phones, board members exchanged frantic looks. Isabella's heart pounded. This wasn't just social ruin, they were trying to erase her claim entirely. Just when it seemed the trap would close in, Lily appeared, Isabella's fiery younger sister. She had snuck into the gala disguised as a server. And in her bold, reckless style, she pulled the fire alarm. Screams echoed, lights flickered, chaos erupted. Guests scrambled in panic. "Come on!" Lily shouted, grabbing Isabella's hand. Adrian shielded them both as they pushed through the chaos. Victoria's furious scream cut through the air. "You won't escape this, Isabella." But escape she did. Barely. As they sped away in Adrian's car, Isabella's hands shook, but her eyes burned with fire. "They tried to destroy me," she whispered. Adrian's jaw tightened. "And they won't stop. But neither will we." Then her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She opened the message. It read, "Tonight was just the beginning." The camera would freeze there. Isabella's shocked face illuminated by the phone's glow. The music darkens, suspense hanging in the air. If you've been gripped by this act, don't forget to like this video, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so you don't miss. But trust me, the war has only begun. The city was alive with noise, but inside Isabella's heart, there was only silence. The chaos of the gala still echoed in her mind, the forged will, the stares, the humiliation. She sat in Adrian's office now, staring at the documents spread across the table. Evidence twisted against her. Headlines flashing across every screen. The Kane empire slipping from her grip. And here's the thing, you watching right now, this is where most people would crumble. But not Isabella. Still, even the strongest hearts have breaking points. Stay with me, because what happens next is not only a test of Isabella's courage, but the moment that will define whether she rises, or loses it all. Every media outlet was running the same story. Evelyn Shaw's video had gone viral. The maid who lied her way into an empire, the headlines screamed. Isabella's phone buzzed relentlessly, journalists, fake supporters, old neighbors who wanted gossip. Her reputation was being shredded piece by piece. Lily slammed her fist on the desk. "They can't get away with this. You didn't steal anything, Isa." Adrian exhaled, his jaw tight. "I've seen setups before. But this is different. They want to break you publicly, legally, and emotionally." And Isabella finally whispered the word she hadn't dared. What if they succeed? That silence afterward. It was heavier than gold. The next day, Isabella was summoned to an emergency board meeting. The conference room was cold, the walls lined with portraits of past leaders. At the head sat Charles Donovan, the chairman, his expression unreadable. "Miss Torres," he began, "the board is concerned. These allegations," he gestured to the folder before him, "have shaken investor confidence." Victoria was there, of course. Draped in pearls, eyes gleaming with victory. Marcus sat beside her, hands folded, calm as a serpent. One by one, board members questioned Isabella. Her qualifications. Her background. Her right to lead. And then Charles delivered the blow. "Until this matter is resolved, the board is voting to suspend your authority as acting CEO." Gasps. Silence. Isabella's knuckles whitened against the table. "That's absurd." Adrian shot back. "There's no legal basis." But Victoria cut him off with a smile. "There's every basis. She's unfit. The empire is crumbling under her watch." The vote was taken. Hands raised. Almost unanimous. In that moment, Isabella felt the empire slipping through her fingers. Afterward, she locked herself in her office. For hours, she sat in the dark, staring at the skyline that once inspired her. Her mind replayed every insult. Every whisper. Every betrayal. The maid who dared to dream. Her phone buzzed again. Another message. This one from an unknown number. "You were never meant to sit on that throne. Step aside, or be destroyed." Her hand trembled. For the first time, Isabella let the tears fall. And this, dear viewers, is her breaking point. The moment that strips her bare, leaving only the question, will she rise, or will she fall? Just as the darkness threatened to consume her, Lily burst in. "Isa, listen to me." Lily's voice was raw, desperate. "You've come too far to let them win. You're not just a maid. You're my sister. And you're stronger than all of them combined. Adrian stepped into the room too, his presence calm but powerful. They want you broken. But that's when you're most dangerous, Isabella. Because when you've got nothing left to lose, you're unstoppable. Isabella looked at them both. The sister who believed in her, the man who defended her. Slowly, she rose to her feet. No more running, she whispered. No more hiding. If they want war, then war is what they'll get. And in that moment, the heiress was reborn. But just as Isabella began to gather herself, Adrian's phone rang. He answered, his expression darkening. He turned to Isabella. It's worse than we thought. Victoria and Marcus, they've filed for an emergency court hearing. If they win, you'll be stripped of everything, by law. Isabella's eyes widened. Tomorrow, it wouldn't just be reputation on the line. It would be the empire itself. The screen would freeze here, her determined face caught between fear and fire. If you're still hooked right now, hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe, because we are about to bring the fight to the courtroom, and the stakes they've never been higher. The air in the courthouse was heavy with anticipation. Reporters lined the steps outside, their cameras flashing like lightning strikes. Inside, the grand chamber buzzed with whispers, the eyes of the city fixed on one case. Isabella Torres versus Victoria Kane and Marcus Steele. This wasn't just a trial. It was the battle for an empire. And if you've been following Isabella's journey up to this point, you know what's at stake: her honor, her future, and the billion-dollar legacy she never asked for, but now must defend. So stick with me, because what happens in this courtroom will shake every player to their core. Victoria Kane walked into the courtroom first, draped in a white suit as if purity itself had stepped in, ironic, given the venom in her heart. Beside her, Marcus Steele exuded his usual cold confidence, every gesture precise, every glance predatory. Then came Isabella. Not as a maid. Not as a victim. But as an heiress ready to fight. Dressed in a sleek navy dress, hair pulled back, she carried herself with quiet dignity. Adrian Cole walked by her side, sharp in his tailored suit, eyes blazing with determination. The judge entered. All rise. The war had begun. Victoria's attorney wasted no time. With a honeyed tone, he painted Isabella as an opportunist. A maid, he sneered, who wormed her way into the Kane household. Who manipulated the late Richard Kane in his vulnerable final years. Who now dares to claim what she did not earn. Murmurs filled the room. Cameras clicked. Victoria sat back, lips curled in satisfaction. This was her script, her perfect theater. And then Marcus leaned in to whisper something in her ear, his smirk widening. Whatever it wasn't good. When it was Adrian's turn, he stood tall. My client is not a thief. She is the rightful heir, as written and signed in Richard Kane's will. A will that, by the way, was notarized and filed legally, until this very board attempted to undermine it. He held up a folder. And we have proof that the so-called evidence against her is fabricated. Emails, altered. Bank statements, forged. All connected to companies linked, to Marcus Steele. Gasps echoed. Marcus's expression hardened, though he never lost composure. Victoria shifted uncomfortably for the first time. But Adrian wasn't done. He turned toward Isabella. She is not here because she schemed. She is here because Richard Kane trusted her more than anyone in this room. Every word struck like a hammer. And for the first time, Isabella felt the tide shifting. Then came the witnesses. Evelyn Shaw, the gossip blogger, strutted to the stand. She loved the spotlight, relishing every second. I reported what I knew, she said dramatically. Isabella was close to Richard Kane, too close. Everyone whispered about it. And now she suddenly inherits everything? Please. The courtroom buzzed. Isabella's heart sank. But then Adrian leaned forward. "Miss Shaw, isn't it true you were paid to release that article at a very specific time, the night before the board vote?" The color drained from Evelyn's face. I don't recall." Adrian slammed down another document. "Bank transfers. Directly from a Steel Industries account. To you." The courtroom erupted. Evelyn froze, caught in the trap. Victoria shot Marcus a sharp glance. His jaw clenched. Their perfect plan was unraveling. When Isabella herself took the stand, the room went silent. She told her story, not with anger, not with theatrics, but with raw honesty. The long nights scrubbing floors. The humiliation of invisibility. The moment Richard Kane told her, "You have more integrity than anyone around me." Her voice cracked, but her resolve didn't. And by the end, even the judge seemed moved. But Victoria rose from her seat, unable to stay silent. "She's lying," she screamed. "That empire is mine. Mine." The courtroom fell into chaos. The judge slammed the gavel, demanding order. But the damage was done. Victoria had revealed her obsession for all to see. By day's end, the case was far from over. The judge announced a recess before final arguments. The fate of the Kane Empire would be decided tomorrow. As Isabella left the courtroom, flashes blinded her, reporters shouting questions. Adrian leaned close. "You held your ground. But tomorrow, they'll come harder. Victoria and Marcus still have cards to play." Isabella nodded, determination hardening her features. "Then let them play. Because I'm done being their pawn. Tomorrow. I fight as their equal." The screen freezes here, her face resolute, the crowd screaming around her. If you've been hooked this far, hit that like button, comment what you'd do in Isabella's shoes, and subscribe, because the final verdict will change everything. This is it, the moment the world has been waiting for. After months of betrayal, courtroom battles, and deadly rivalries, today decides whether Isabella Torres, the maid turned heiress, will finally secure the empire, or lose everything to the ruthless hands of Victoria Kane and Marcus Steele. Stay with me, because what happens in this courtroom will leave you breathless. The courthouse was swarming. Reporters shoved microphones into faces, flashbulbs popped like fireworks, and Evelyn Shaw, the gossip blogger who had fueled every rumor, was live-streaming from the marble steps. Will Isabella Torres finally be exposed as a fraud? Evelyn sneered into her camera. Or will this Cinderella story really end in her favor? Trust me, darlings, the knives are out. Inside, tension hung like a storm cloud. The board of directors sat in the gallery, their expressions unreadable. Adrian Cole adjusted his tie, his eyes darting to Isabella. She looked composed, almost too composed, but her clenched fists betrayed the storm raging inside her. At the opposite table, Victoria Kane was draped in black silk, lips painted crimson, exuding venomous confidence. Marcus Steele sat beside her, calm and predatory, like a wolf waiting for the kill. The judge entered. The gavel struck. Silence fell. Before we dive deeper into this life-changing verdict, if you're enjoying the twists and suspense of Isabella's journey, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps more people discover these stories. Victoria's attorney stood first, voice smooth as poison. Your Honor, the facts are undeniable. Isabella Torres was a maid, nothing more. This empire belongs to Mrs. Victoria Kane, the rightful widow. The so-called will is a fabrication, a desperate attempt by outsiders to hijack a billion-dollar fortune. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Adrian stood slowly, eyes burning. Fabrication. Richard Kane left behind a will authenticated by 3 separate legal bodies. Isabella Torres is not just the heir, she was entrusted because Richard believed in her integrity, something his widow has long abandoned. The judge raised a hand, silencing the uproar. Present your evidence. Victoria's lawyer smirked. Gladly. He unveiled documents, proof that Isabella had manipulated Richard during his final days. Letters suggesting she had coerced him, medical claims implying he was not of sound mind. Whispers erupted. Isabella's face paled. Victoria leaned back in her chair, smiling like a cat with cream. But then, Adrian stepped forward. These documents are lies. And I can prove it. He clicked a remote, and the courtroom monitors lit up with video footage. Richard Kane, frail but clear-eyed, speaking directly into the camera. I leave my empire to Isabella Torres, because she has something this family has lost, honor. The room exploded in chaos. Victoria shot to her feet. That video is doctored, she shrieked. But Adrian wasn't done. He revealed Marcus Steele's secret meetings with Victoria, emails, financial transactions, evidence that Marcus had bankrolled Victoria's attempt to seize control. Marcus's calm mask cracked for the first time. The judge frowned, tapping her gavel. Order. Order in the court. With this new evidence, the integrity of the will is unquestionable. But. The word but sliced through the air like a blade. This board must still decide whether Miss Torres is fit to lead such a vast empire. The fate of Kane International rests not only on inheritance, but on capability. All eyes turned to Charles Donovan, the board chairman. He stood, old but steady, scanning Isabella with calculating eyes. Miss Torres. If this empire is yours, prove to us you are worthy. Tell us, why should we entrust billions, thousands of jobs, and a legacy to you? The room fell silent. Even Evelyn Shaw stopped typing. Isabella swallowed. She was the maid who had once polished silver in this family's mansion, who had scrubbed marble floors while these people looked past her. But now, every eye in the empire was on her. What would you say if the future of a billion-dollar empire rested on your words? Drop your answer in the comments, I'll be reading them. Isabella stepped forward. Her voice was steady, stronger than even she expected. This company was built on vision, loyalty, and hard work. I may not have been born into wealth, but I know what it means to fight for survival. I know what it means to value every worker, because I've been one. Richard Kane saw in me not just a maid, but someone who understands that an empire isn't built on greed or glamour. It's built on people. And if you trust me, I will protect this empire, not as my inheritance, but as my responsibility. For a moment, silence. Then, one by one, members of the board nodded. Even Charles Donovan's eyes softened. The judge struck her gavel. This court upholds the will. Isabella Torres is the rightful heir and CEO of Kane International. The gallery erupted, reporters shouting, Evelyn Shaw shrieking into her live stream, unbelievable. The maid has done it. Victoria screamed, lunging toward Isabella, only to be restrained by security. Marcus slipped away through a side door, his empire of schemes collapsing. Adrian turned to Isabella, his hand brushing hers. For once, words failed him. She had won. Or had she? Because just as the courtroom roared in chaos, a messenger rushed in, breathless. He whispered something to the judge, something that drained the color from her face. The judge stood. Ladies and gentlemen, while the will has been settled, new allegations have emerged. Allegations that could shake this empire to its core. Gasps. Murmurs. Confusion. Isabella froze. Adrian stiffened. Victoria's twisted smile returned. And that's where we leave. So, just when Isabella thought she had finally secured her empire, a new shadow emerges. What could these allegations be? Who is pulling the strings this time? Tell me your theories in the comments, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe, because this is going to be the most shocking part yet. Just when Isabella Torres thought the nightmare was over, just when the judge declared her the rightful heir to a billion-dollar empire, something new shattered the victory. Fresh allegations surfaced, threatening to take everything away. So what were they? Who was behind them? And how far would Isabella go to finally secure her destiny? Let's dive into the finale. The courtroom buzzed with confusion. The judge leaned forward, her voice grave. New evidence has been submitted, evidence that suggests Richard Kane's death was not natural. The gallery erupted. Gasps. Shouts. Even the reporters stumbled over their words, scrambling for headlines. Evelyn Shaw nearly dropped her phone mid-live stream. Victoria Kane's lips curved into a dangerous smile. Marcus Steele, half hidden in the back, adjusted his cufflinks, as though he already knew. Adrian Cole froze, his hand tightening around Isabella's. "Don't flinch," he whispered. "That's what they want." The judge continued. Anonymous sources claim Isabella Torres may have influenced Richard Kane's final days, and that foul play cannot be ruled out. The words foul play hit the room like a thunderclap. If you were Isabella right now, accused of murder in front of the entire world, what would you do? Tell me in the comments, because this is where everything gets real. Victoria rose to her feet, voice dripping venom. "You see? This woman wormed her way into my husband's trust, and now the truth is coming out. She murdered him for his fortune." "Objection!" Adrian thundered. "There is no evidence of this outrageous claim." But Victoria wasn't backing down. She pulled out a folder. Inside were hospital records, anonymously leaked, that suggested Richard's medication had been altered in his final days. All eyes darted to Isabella. She shook her head fiercely. "That's a lie. I never touched his medicine." But suspicion filled the air. Evelyn Shaw whispered into her phone's mic. "Viewers, you're seeing this live, the Cinderella heiress accused of murder. Can she survive this?" The judge allowed Adrian to respond. He stood tall, voice cutting through the chaos. "This is nothing more than a desperate attempt by Mrs. Kane to twist grief into power. Richard Kane trusted Isabella because she represented everything his own family abandoned: honor, loyalty, and truth. And I'll prove she had no hand in his death." The judge gave him 24 hours to respond to the new allegations. And so the final battle began. Outside the courthouse, Isabella was swarmed by cameras. Reporters hurled accusations. "Did you poison Richard Kane? Are you a gold-digger murderer?" Lily Torres, fiery and unfiltered, shoved through the crowd. "Back off. My sister is no killer." Adrian pulled Isabella into the car. "They're playing their last card," he said. "If we can't clear this, you'll lose everything." This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about Isabella's name, her soul, her very survival. And the enemies lined up against her weren't done yet. If you're still with me, don't forget to smash that like button. It helps this story reach more people who love high-stakes drama. That night, Adrian and Isabella combed through Richard Kane's files, hunting for anything that could disprove Victoria's accusations. Hours dragged on. Finally, Lily stumbled upon something. "Look," she shouted, waving a flash drive. On it, security footage from Richard's private study, dated just days before his death. The video showed Victoria herself meeting with Marcus Steele. Their conversation was muffled, but one phrase rang out crystal clear. "If Richard dies sooner, we both win." The room went silent. Isabella trembled. Adrian's eyes burned with fire. They did this. They killed him. The next day, court resumed. The tension was unbearable. Victoria strutted in, convinced victory was hers. Marcus lurked in the shadows, confident the empire was already slipping into their grasp. But Adrian was ready. He played the footage. The entire courtroom froze as Victoria's damning words echoed through the speakers. "If Richard dies sooner, we both win." The judge's gavel slammed. Enough. This court finds the new allegations against Isabella Torres to be baseless. Instead, I am ordering a full investigation into Victoria Kane and Marcus Steele for conspiracy to murder. Chaos exploded. Reporters screamed. Evelyn Shaw shrieked into her live stream. "Oh my God, are you hearing this? The widow herself implicated in Richard Kane's death." Victoria collapsed in rage, screaming, "No. This is a setup. She stole everything from me." Security dragged her out as Marcus tried to flee, but federal agents intercepted him at the door. So what happens when the villains finally fall? Do they face justice, or do they rise again in some darker way? Stick around, because Isabella's ending isn't just about victory, it's about transformation. In the aftermath, silence settled. The board of Kane International gathered one final time. Charles Donovan, the chairman, stood before Isabella. "You've endured betrayals, accusations, and schemes that would break anyone else. But you never wavered. You've proven you're not just the heiress by law, you're the heiress by spirit. The board unanimously supports you as CEO." Tears welled in Isabella's eyes. Lily hugged her tight. Adrian placed a steady hand on her shoulder, whispering, "You did it. The empire was hers." But Isabella didn't gloat. She stood before the cameras, her voice calm yet powerful. "This empire is not about money. It's about people, workers, families, lives. I won't run it with greed or corruption. I will run it with the values Richard Kane saw in me, honor and integrity." The crowd erupted in applause. Evelyn Shaw, live streaming, admitted reluctantly, "Well, darlings, maybe the maid really did become a queen." That night, as the city skyline glowed, Isabella and Adrian stood on the balcony of the Kane mansion. "You fought like hell," Adrian said softly. "I didn't win alone," she replied. "I had you. I had Lily. And I had the truth." Adrian smiled, finally letting down his guarded walls. "Then maybe it's time you stop being the maid, and start being the woman who owns her destiny." The chemistry between them, long simmering, finally bloomed into a kiss, under the stars, with the empire secure at last. And so, the maid who once scrubbed floors rose to rule a billion-dollar empire, proving that even in the darkest storms, honor can triumph over greed. And that concludes the story of Isabella Torres, the maid who inherited a billion-dollar empire. But I want to know, if you were in her shoes, would you forgive Victoria and Marcus, or would you make sure they paid for everything they did? Drop your answer in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more epic stories just like this. From maid to mogul. Isabella's journey proves one thing: no amount of lies, betrayal, or power games can bury the truth forever. But her story doesn't just end here. The empire may be secure, for now, but with enemies still lurking in the shadows, who knows what storm is coming next. If you enjoyed this story, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss the next story of betrayal, romance, and empire wars. And tell me in the comments, do you think Isabella is truly safe, or is this just the calm before another storm?